Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. It is Monday morning, it's the start of a new week. Manchester United do play this week. I'm excited to get back into watching the football, but while Manchester United haven't been playing, Sir Jim has been making some moves of his own. He's been making some moves of his own. Omar Berrada, I know this news broke over the weekend. Mark spoke about it, but there's some more news coming out on how Sir Jim poached Omar Berrada and what the focus is going into the summer transfer window under Sir Jim. He wants the best in class. He wants to focus on football. The rest will follow, something that Manchester United haven't done in numerous years. This sort of appointment takes me back to the Peter Kenyon, David Gill kind of days, and I don't want to overhype it. The guy can't just come in himself and change the whole football club around, but he's an absolutely unbelievable appointment, and we're going to talk about how that's come into fruition and what Sir Jim could do next, because this is only the first appointment that he's made. There's going to be more to come. Dan Ashworth, Paul Mitchell, there's a lot of talk coming out, so we're going to get into all of that stuff. Also a little bit coming out on what Berbatov has to say about Jadon Sancho at Borussia Dortmund and whether he thinks he can make it work under Ten Hag. Very interesting. We'll get your points across on that. Did quite well again for Dortmund at the weekend. Doing well for Dortmund, doing well for Man United. It's two different kind of things. Dortmund are a good side, but the Bundesliga is a different league. But he did quite well, which is good to see. You want to see his price tag go up. And then a little bit about Brian Brobbey from Ajax, the striker that Erik ten Hag has been continuously linked to and apparently wants to bring to Manchester United in the summer. But good morning, everyone. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the show. I just want to start off the show with a little something from me in the sense of what I think about Omar Berrada. I know Mark's had his say. I know you guys, a lot of people excited about it. A lot of people are saying that with this appointment, we can't just let the words do the talking. Actions speak louder than words, and we've got to see what happens, and we've got to wait to see whether this actually does prove to be a good appointment. But the one thing I would say is when I saw this appointment, I thought, wow, it really shocked me. It just looked like something that Manchester United wouldn't do ever. Like this sort of business, this is elite kind of business. It is elite sort of poaching, and that's just not Manchester United. We are not elite in the slightest. We've not acted like an elite club in the slightest for a number of years. This is an elite move, going poaching off the other side of Manchester. Sadly, the much more successful side of Manchester, someone who has been really successful. It probably the best club in the world right now in terms of success. To go and poach that and bring them to Manchester United as the first appointment, I think, one, it shows ambition, two, it shows fearlessness, and three, it shows that hunger to be the best very, very quickly, because this guy knows what it takes to be the best, because Omar Berrada has been a part of a club that has been the best football club in England for a number of years, and it's sad to say because I don't want that. I don't want Man City to be the best football club in England, but that sadly has been the truth, and to go and poach this sort of character for this role as the CEO of Manchester United is the first appointment when you come into the club. I think it's a brilliant thing to do. Obviously, like I said, we've got to get the other appointments right. He can't do it on his own. He needs a sporting director. He needs head of recruitment. He needs elite scouts around him. He needs a fully fledged working team of elite people, but he's going to be the CEO and he'll be involved in making them decisions and getting the best in class in to help him out, and he knows what the best in class looks like. So I really am excited for this appointment. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh well, this is spin, this needs to be this. And of course, we've got to wait to see things happen. We've got to wait to see improvements. But when I see something positive, I'm going to get positive about it because it makes me feel better as a Manchester United fan. And it's just exciting. I went through this weekend with like a buzz. You know when you have like a little bit of a buzz about it when you're reading the news, and so often when I open my phone, I open Twitter, or I open the news, and whatever I'm looking at in terms of Man United news, I see something that makes me go, cheapo moting, really. Like, you know, there's that sort of vibe, like anything that comes out between Manchester United. But this one, when David Ornstein put that exclusive out, I sent it straight into the WhatsApp chat on the United Stand, and I was like, oh my, I could not believe it. Like, my jaw physically dropped. I was in Manchester Piccadilly train station, like, what is going on here? It's something that I just never would imagine Manchester United to do. So I'm very, very happy about this, and it is an elite move. But welcome everybody to the chat. Get your opinions get your opinions in on it. I knew I'm getting, and I got a super chat around the outfit. Ghosty says, you're going for a round of golf, Bethany. Morning show in the morning, golf in the afternoon. I'm not going for a round of golf. I like the attire. I like the golf vibes though. Maybe not for everybody, but it's just what I was feeling this morning. It's what I was feeling. Although, to be honest with you, I've not played golf in such a long time. It'd be quite fun to go and do, so I might have a look at that. We should have like a United stand, like mini golf sort of day, like a team building thing. We should definitely do that. But again, like I just wanted to kind of reinforce here, it's coming out from Chris Wheeler at the Daily Mail. Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sir Dave Brailsworth are determined to appoint the best in class to the key positions at Manchester United. And again, like we said, actions speak louder than words. We've been hearing this for a while now. We had Chris Wheeler on the show, we had Rob Dawson on the show, and they have said that Sir Jim, Dave Brailsford, Ineos as a whole, just their project, their operation, they have not come into Manchester United and spent £1.3 billion to do nothing. That's what we keep hearing. And we've been rumoured linked to Dan Ashworth, we've been linked to Paul Mitchell, there's been names flying around. Omar Berrada was never a name that had come up for the CEO. A lot of the time, it was Claude Blanc who got referenced as who was going to be the new CEO at Manchester United. That was the rumour. Nobody spoke about Omar Berrada. He came out of nowhere, which again, I love the fact it didn't get leaked into the news. You know, it's called making moves. And apparently Sir Jim had been in contact with Omar Berrada and trying to get this deal sorted from the beginning of December. That's the word that's coming out. So we had the information about they wanted to appoint the best in class, but rightly so. We've been lied to and misled so many times in Manchester United that a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to actually wait to see what happens because nothing's been done yet. This is the first move they've made, the first move out of many, which is coming out of a lot of reports. And you have to say, it is a best in class appointment. You have to say, fair enough, put your money where your mouth is. You have done that. It's the CEO, which is a seriously important position at Manchester United. To go from Richard Arnold to Omar Berrada, it's definitely a best-in-class appointment. And I know everybody's been saying it, so this isn't new information, but it is like when Abramovich went and got Peter Kenyon in 2003. That is exactly what it's like. And it's a big, big move for Manchester United to go and make, so I'm happy about that. We've just got to follow it up with best-in-class appointments in other areas, for example, sporting director and head of recruitment. The rumour is, we don't know because obviously Omar Berrada came out of nowhere, so who knows what the plotting behind the scenes, but the rumour is that Dan Ashworth is going to be the sporting director and Paul Mitchell is going to be head of recruitment. That's what the rumour is. We'll have to wait to see what the updates are on that. But I think if you've got a basic team, there's obviously going to be other appointments as well, but if you've got a basic team of Omar Berrada as CEO, Dan Ashworth as sporting director and Paul Mitchell as head of recruitment, that is absolutely, like, it's one of the biggest upgrades I've ever seen in life. Genuinely one of the biggest upgrades I've ever seen in life, from going from Richard Arnold and John Murtough to Omar Berrada, Paul Mitchell and Dan Ashworth. Like, it's ridiculous how much of an upgrade that would be. And do not get me wrong, that's exactly how Manchester United should be. Interestingly enough, in the statement, when they spoke about putting the what's happening on the pitch and the football back at the heart of Manchester United, that's a big checkbox, and that's going to entice a lot of fans. They obviously know what they're doing in that statement, but it's absolutely what you want to hear as Manchester United fans. And them sort of appointments make you believe that is definitely the way that we're going, because all three of them have been very successful, have had a successful history, and when you put them together compared to what we've had, with our commercial value and with our fan base, and with obviously other appointments that are best in class as well, it really does give you that belief that Manchester United are turning over a completely new leaf. Sir Jim and Ineos are taking control of the footballing side of things, and they're actually going to make big moves that are going to really help us out and get us back to the top of English football, which is exactly where Manchester United need to be. We need to be at the top of European football, realistically, and we're so far off that, but these appointments are a step in the right direction. The one thing I would say is, obviously, Omar Berrada is on gardening leave right now at City. He doesn't start until the summer. By then, you'd think you'd have the appointments in of your sporting director and your head of recruitment and all of the other appointments that Sir Jim and Ineos and Dave Brailsford are planning to make. But the one thing I would say is, it's not going to turn around in one summer. Like, you're not going to just do one summer transfer window with these as a team, these people as a team, how good they are. They've only just started to work together. It's going to take time. And this is going to be a long process. And my question to you guys, with this process happening, does Erik ten Hag deserve the time to be part of that process? The manager, the CEO, the head of recruitment, the sporting director, all working in cohesion, working as a team, going through the rough patch. We're in a massive rough patch right now with Erik ten Hag, but the process hasn't really started yet. The new era hasn't really started yet. That starts in the summer when Omar Berrada comes in. But do you give Erik ten Hag the chance to work with this team and stick with him for the long haul, invest with him for the long haul? Manager, CEO, all kind of going through the line from the top of the club to the bottom, all working in cohesion, and give Erik ten Hag a very good chunk of time. Basically, wipe the slate clean, start afresh. This is the new era. We're going with Erik ten Hag. We're seeing what he can do with it. And do you give him a good chunk of time to kind of turn it around and work with his team? That's the question. I think Erik ten Hag deserves the chance to do it. If I was Erik ten Hag, and obviously a lot of people are saying he's on trial now from the end of the season, and he's got from now until the end of the season to prove why he should be the manager that this new era starts with, this new project starts with, and to get the backing and to be given the time and to be given next season. He's got now until the end of the season to prove that. That's the word on the street. That's what a lot of people are talking about. But realistically, I do actually think that is the case. Because if you were Ten Hag, you'd be so gutted that if you've come into Manchester United, where, let's be honest, he can't say it because he works for them, but he knows what an absolute horror show it is behind the scenes. He's literally had John Murtough with him each summer saying, I want this player, and John Murtough said, for example, this is just an example, Anthony, I know he gets brought up all the time, Ten Hag wanted him, John Murtough was like, how high can you jump? And he's like, how high? He's going and he's gone and paid over 80 million for Anthony, which he never should have done. If that's someone like Omar Berrada, who we've seen in the City documentary that's been done, and the clips that are coming out of Omar Berrada and the news that's coming around him, the Harry Maguire thing, other players at Manchester City, they will never overpay, no matter what, and they work with a sporting director to look at the best talents that work from a footballing side, but also a financial side, and bringing it at the correct balance. That deal never would have happened with Omar Berrada at Manchester United, which is going to happen. So Anthony will be like, buzzing, I'm lucky I got in the door early enough, and Erik ten Hag will not have that sort of control when it comes to transfers. It'll be a completely new way that we're going to operate. I have no doubt about that. No doubt. We're going to operate completely differently. Is Ten Hag going to like that? If I was the manager, yes. If I had a fully fledged group of successful people working behind me, that would take so much of the pressure off. Ten Hag's had to be sporting director, scout, manager, coach. He's had to do everything. And he shouldn't be making all of his own signings for ridiculous amounts of money. That shouldn't be happening. Of course, he should have a say. He should be working with the sporting director, and he should have to kind of be involved in them conversations, but it shouldn't be completely down to him, which I have a feeling is a lot of what's been going on. A couple signings, probably not. Chris Wheeler spoke about the Mount signing. Obviously, Ten Hag signed it off, but it was more of a club signing. The Casemiro one, he wanted De Jong for so long, that felt a lot like a panic buy. But realistically, Erik ten Hag has kind of been running everything. And I think he needs to focus on being a manager and have the best in class in them departments run everything going on behind the scenes in cohesion with him. And if I was Ten Hag and if I got sacked now, I'd be so gutted because, whoever comes into this new project is going to have a completely different way of doing things than what we've done for the last numerous years and years and years that have been completely unsuccessful, that have brought in managers, chewed them up, spit them back out, ruined careers. We are career killers. We've ruined managers' careers, we've ruined players' careers. I think this is genuinely going to be a completely new way that we're going to run things, and Omar Berrada is kind of going to be the head of that. And I hope, that's what I'm hoping for. Obviously, we've got to see, I'm not saying it's going to happen, we've got to see the other appointments happen, we've got to see things start to change, start to move in a different direction. But that's exactly what I'm hoping for. And the one thing I would bring up, and obviously Omar's worked at Barcelona, the head of sponsorship and senior media, business development manager. He's worked in the commercial side of things, which obviously is important, but we want to be focused on, like I said, the footballing side of things being at the best. But in Manchester City, and doing the role that he's done at Manchester City, chief football operations of the City group, he's been involved in some brilliant deals for Manchester City. I mean, the most prominent one recently being the Erling Haaland deal. He knows exactly what it's... He knows the formula. Like, the whole City formula, which, let's be honest, they're doing brilliantly. Like, it's hard to say, but it's true. You know, he's been very, very involved in the women's team. He's been involved in the academy, which Manchester City's academy is involved massively. Like, you know, Darren Fletcher's sons were at the Man City academy because it's a better academy, and then they moved to Manchester United when the time's right. That's the room on the street. Like, die-hard, like, Manchester United players and fans that, you know, have kids that are doing brilliantly in football will put them in the Man City academy, use it because it's a better academy than Manchester United, and bring them to Manchester United when the time's right. That's what's been happening. And Manchester United, you know, we're producing some good talents at the moment. Kobe Mainoo, Garnacho, long may that continue. Absolutely, Shea Lace is another one of them. But Omar's been involved in all different sides of Manchester City, and he knows the formula for success. And to bring that into Manchester United, I think he's going to be absolutely key. It really is. And also, he's getting away from the 115 charges that it was reported that he had no involvement in. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that, but I hope Man City do get charged, obviously. So yeah, kind of wanted to say it was like it's bringing me back to Peter Kenyon, David Gill vibes. Got away, obviously. Actions speak louder than words, absolutely. But just off the bat and judging this appointment, it just does seem like a huge coup and one of the biggest executive poaching situations that we've had in numerous years. And it's top level stuff. It really, really is. So I'm very excited for it, and long may these best in class appointments continue, because I mean this is what Manchester United needs. They're absolutely desperate for it. It also came out from Mike Keegan at the Daily Mail that the first approach to Omar Berrada was made by Ineos, served Dave Brailsford in December. A meeting followed with Sir Jim Ratcliffe before a summit involving the Glazers. Again, does not surprise me that Sir Dave Brailsford was at the head of this. I've spoke about it numerous times. Sir Dave Brailsford is absolutely exceptional in what he does. He's done it with cycling. Can he do it in football is the question mark I have. He knows himself. We had Chris Wheeler on the show saying it. He doesn't know about football as much as, you know, obviously he knows about cycling, and it's not his expertise. But what he does know is how to get the best in class into them positions. He's very good at people. He's very good at marginal gains. He's very good at being the best and improving people and getting the appointments. And that kind of shows in this first appointment of Omar Berrada. Dave Brailsford doesn't know how to be, you know, the best football CEO that they can be, how to be the best sporting director. He doesn't know these things. He's not, you know, elite on his football knowledge. He's not done them roles. But what he does know is how to create a successful sporting team, how to create a successful environment, and how to get the best in class in them positions. And we've said it all the time. The Glazers don't have an absolute Scooby about football. Like, they don't have a Scooby-Doo. Like, remember when they got, like, Ronaldo's age wrong, like, in an interview? Like, they don't know anything. But we've said it for years upon years upon years. They needed to go and get the best in class. Dave Brailsford isn't, you know, completely elite at football, but he knows how to get the best in class, and that started with this appointment that he made in December. And everybody knows that this is an Ineos appointment. Like, there's no way the Glazers went out and scouted Omar Berrada and convinced him to join Manchester United. What happened was Sir Jim and Dave Brailsford went and did the groundwork. They wanted to appoint him, and the Glazers have signed it off because obviously they have the majority share of Manchester United. And it's obviously frustrating that the Glazers still do have to do the sign off in this decision. But the one thing I would say is, the Glazers are not stupid people. They're going to follow, I think, and I hope, they're going to follow the footprint that Sir Jim and Sir Dave Brailsford lay down. Because if they do all the work on the footballing side of things and they make Manchester United successful again, and they have the expertise, why would the Glazers not want that? Of course they're going to want that. They've not been bothered enough to do it themselves since they've been at Manchester United, because they just see the money rolling in each year. You know, they're not bothered if we win. If Sir Dave Brailsford and Sir Jim Ratcliffe have the hunger to win and the hunger to change the footballing side of things, and all the Glazers have to really do is, you know, sign it off and just watch Manchester United continue to be more successful. If that formula works and it is successful, why would they not want that success? It's going to raise the value of their share of Manchester United, and ultimately that means more money for them. Anything that involves dollar signs and money for the Glazers, they're going to be all for it. So I hope they don't ever stunt the decisions that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Dave Brailsford want to make, and that's going to be interesting if that does ever happen. If they do, like, if Dave Brailsford and Sir Jim Ratcliffe ever do want something to happen, they want an appointment, they need something being signed off on, and the Glazers say, actually, no, we're not going to sign off on that. That's going to be interesting to see if that ever comes to a head. But at the moment, I think they'd be very wise to follow what they want to do, because Sir Jim and Dave Brailsworth haven't come in here for a laugh. They want to change things, and I feel like so far they're going the right way about it, if I'm going to be honest. But let's have a look at what you guys are saying. A lot of people saying we want to see actions, not words, and that's absolutely true. And I've said this so many times. Just because I'm excited about this appointment, and I think personally it's going to be great if they can back it up with other appointments as well, doesn't mean, an appointment doesn't give Manchester United a trophy. An appointment doesn't mean we win games. What it does, it gives us positivity and hope that this is going to change things. And of course, we've got to see it happen. We have to see it happen. But so far, I'm not going to be negative about something that I genuinely think is a brilliant appointment. And one thing I would say is, obviously, when Qatar and Sir Jim were going kind of head to head to buy Manchester United, Qatar wanted a full takeover, which is what the majority of us want. I mean, I sat on the show and said I would prefer a full takeover because that's what I wanted. I think everybody wanted the Glazers just completely gone. But when we realised that wasn't going to be the case and it was going to be Sir Jim Ratcliffe, there's no point crying over spilt milk. Do you know what I mean? Of course, everybody wanted a full takeover, but Sir Jim Ratcliffe's in now. Let's get behind him and hope that he's going to make the difference that we all want to happen, and he's going to make Manchester United more successful. So you've got to judge him based on what he does when he gets into the club. But the one thing I would say, I don't know how entirely true this is, but there was reports coming out that apparently, when the Qataris bought Manchester United, they were going to get the likes of Rio Ferdinand in as sporting director and Patrice Evra in as roles in the club. And as much as I was so behind the full takeover and the £1 billion of investment they were going to put straight into the club absolutely was needed, and I genuinely thought that was the best way to go at the time. Thinking about it now, if they would have done that and got the likes of Rio Ferdinand and Patrice Evra for them sort of roles, and no disrespect to them, Rio Ferdinand's one of the best Man United centre-backs I've ever seen, one of the best Premier League centre-backs I've ever seen. Patrice Evra, absolutely love him as a pundit, loved him as a left-back for Manchester United, insane. But I don't think employing ex-players as serious footballing roles would have been an absolute disaster. An absolute disaster. They have no experience in that whatsoever, at all. Employing a Rio Ferdinand as a CEO compared to an Omar Berrada as a CEO is just absolute chalk and cheese. You can have all the money in the world, it's how you do it. It's look at Todd Bowley. The amount of money he's injected into Chelsea, and they're not successful. And it looks like they've gone backwards. You've got to know how to use it, and you've got to make the right appointments. Obviously, we never know, because it's just rumours and we don't know what Qatar could have done. Qatar could have come in, they could have appointed Omar Berrada, they could have done all these same things, and they could have built a whole new stadium, invested into all the facilities, and, we're Glazer free and absolutely amazing, happy days. They could have done that. So there's no point kind of speaking on something that we didn't know whether it happened. But all I wanted to say is the rumours regarding them potentially, employing Rio Ferdinand and Patrice Evra in them key positions, it would have been an absolute disaster. That's one thing I would say. Liam Monberg, member for 4 months, off topic, but would rather have never had Ronaldo or Rooney at United. Brilliant show as always, Beth. We appreciate you guys at the United Stand. Absolutely, unbelievably tough question. Would you rather have never had Ronaldo or Rooney? I mean, two of my favourite players of all time, but purely based off what they did at Manchester United, Rooney. I love Rooney. I would have rather had Rooney, because Rooney's my favourite ever Manchester United player. Probably because it was more my era of when I was growing up as well. But I just absolutely loved him. I was obsessed with Rooney as a kid, and I just think he's still so underrated. For me, one of, if not the best English player of all time. Absolutely insane player. I obviously, Ronaldo is insane, and what he did at United was brilliant. I also loved him, one of my favourite players, but obviously he went on to Real Madrid and that was the majority of his career, whereas Rooney spent the majority of his career at Manchester United and was an absolute game changer. He's our all-time leading top goal scorer, if I'm not wrong. Ronnie Dodge says, I don't think Jayden is coming back with Omar as CEO. Yeah, well, this is a thing. You know what? It's time to crack down. It's time to crack down and get people in charge that are going to put the foot down and are going to do the right thing on a footballing side for Manchester United. And if that involves Jadon Sancho not coming back, then so be it. I'm so sick of Player FC. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. Player FC does my absolute head in. Why don't we have Manchester United FC? What is best for Manchester United? What is best for the team going forward? Not you know, people, I hope Jadon Sancho does well. I want him to do well at Dortmund. Wish him no ill wish whatsoever. I hope he does well. I hope his price goes up. And if the manager, whichever manager it is at Manchester United, wants to bring Jadon Sancho back in the summer, whether that be Erik ten Hag or somebody else, if that's what the manager wants to do, I will get behind it. If the manager at the time, Erik ten Hag or somebody else, doesn't want to bring Jadon Sancho back and the club feel like it's not the best decision, they want to sell him, I am absolutely good with that as well. I think we need to get behind whoever is the manager at Manchester United and the way that we want to run things. And I've always been that way. Like, I will be behind the manager mostly till the end. That doesn't mean you have to be. Absolutely doesn't mean you have to be. Everyone can have their opinions. And there's a lot of things I think Erik ten Hag has done wrong. I mean, I've said it on the show multiple times. For me, he is on thin ice and he has to do something big now from the end of the season. He really has to turn things around. Martinez coming and Casemiro coming back is huge. But at the end of the day, I'm never going to back a player who did basically nothing in a United shirt, turned up late for training, refused to apologise over the manager of Manchester United that is only trying to do the best for the club. It's not going to happen, but I hope Jadon Sancho does well. I really do, because, you know, sometimes players and managers, they just clash and it doesn't work out. That doesn't mean Jadon Sancho's a bad player. It doesn't mean Erik ten Hag's a bad manager. It doesn't mean it. They can both have successful careers, probably apart. Like, that's the way it is, and we'll never know fully what went on behind the scenes. But it was coming in actually from Dimitar Berbatov. Unbelievable player, Berbatov. Loved him. He said about Jadon Sancho, he's made a good start with them, as in Dortmund, and it'll be great if he goes back to his previous form. But if you're asking me if that will get him back in Erik ten Hag good books, I don't think so. I only see Sancho playing for Manchester United again if the manager changes. If Sancho does well at Dortmund, he could be in contention for a place at the Euro 2024. Personally, I don't think Jadon Sancho will go to the Euros just based off how well other forward players are doing, English forward players are doing. I just don't think Jadon Sancho, and Southgate's never seemed to fancy him, but if he does, you know, fair play to him. But with Jadon Sancho, again, to be honest with you, I agree with Berbatov in the sense of, you know, it doesn't matter what form Jadon Sancho has at Dortmund. He can score a hat-trick every single game. I don't think it was ever about Jadon Sancho's talent and how good he was as a football player. I think everybody knew the talent he had, including Erik ten Hag. Erik ten Hag is very, very disciplined and very focused and obsessed with culture, standards, timekeeping and attitude. They're the things where I think Jadon Sancho lacked behind. You know, Erik ten Hag, when Jadon Sancho was struggling at Manchester United, you know, sent him away for 3 months to the Hollands with coaches that he trusted and he knew. He gave him support. He didn't ever speak about him in the media. And he started to reintegrate him back into the team. But Erik ten Hag has said in a Sky interview, there was problems with Jadon Sancho's timekeeping and you know, the issues that he had kind of off the field before he even came into Manchester United. And then it continued. And I think he probably felt when Jadon Sancho came back, they were going to start a clean sheet slate. He expected Jadon Sancho to be on time. He expected him to be doing his best in training, putting all the work in behind the scenes. And he probably felt let down that that didn't end up happening. I don't think it's a talent thing. I've said it multiple times and people can disagree with me. I think Jadon Sancho is a really talented player. I really do. And I actually do think he could do it in the Premier League if he put his mind to it. I just think his mentality hasn't been right to be a Manchester United player. Whether that can change, I don't know. And I think that's what Erik ten Hag saw as well. I think he saw someone who was late and who, you know, when he showed him a training video of what he was doing wrong, didn't kind of want to see it and didn't take it on board. And okay, yeah, people have the other side of things. He's seen Anthony play week in, week out terribly for Manchester United and wondering why can't I do that? But again, Ten Hag needs to be questioned on his talent ID and absolutely, like, why are you playing Anthony? Why are you playing McTominay? Them things need to be questioned. That is not like a this or that. They do need to be questioned. But the reason with Jadon Sancho, and it comes down to the basics, attitude, work rate, timekeeping, what are you doing behind the scenes at Manchester United? Are you applying yourself to the absolute maximum? And Ten Hag clearly thought he wasn't. And that's why it ended the way it did with Jadon Sancho. And to be honest with you, honestly, this story just keeps going round like a revolving door. He's at Dortmund now, let him play his football, he seems happy, hopefully he does well. In the summer, it's something Sir Jim, Omar Berrada and, you know, other people at the football club need to address, whether he comes back or whether he gets sold. I think he will get sold. And if I had to make the decision now, I would sell him, personally. If we are choosing to move forward with Erik ten Hag as our manager, I don't think Sancho can come back to Manchester United, personally. DK says, fans going to hype Sancho at Dortmund without watching full 90. He'll come back and they'll complain about the same things last season. And Jody David says, Ten Hag got rid of Palestra, who creates chances, and kept Rashford and Anthony, who will shoot, instead of passing to Højlund. Lol. I'm going to talk about that because I was having a really good chat with somebody, actually, on the train this weekend about the forward situation at Manchester United. Palestra, for me, should have been given more opportunity, absolutely. And just because Ten Hag, doesn't want Sancho, doesn't mean I think Anthony's good enough. It doesn't, because I don't think he is. But I'm going to talk about the forward situation in Manchester United because it's a really interesting topic that I kind of want to get into. But on Brian Broby, I am not in contact with Erik ten Hag. He spoke out. I'm not in contact with Erik ten Hag anymore. We used to text through WhatsApp, but I think Erik is busy. I have a new number as well. And he said he wouldn't be joining Manchester United. This is the striker who's playing at Ajax, who is actually having a pretty decent season. And apparently Erik ten Hag really wants to bring to Manchester United in the summer. And my initial reaction to this is, please no. Please no. No more players from the Eredivisie, no more players from Ajax. Just no. No. Like, Erik, we need to move into different areas now. We can't keep doing this. And this is where the sporting director comes in and puts the foot down. And, there's more than just one person in control behind the scenes. For every Martinez, there's an Anthony. For, Donny van der Beek, whether you think he deserved more opportunity, which I think he did, but he didn't end up working out in Manchester United. The Ajax to Man United hasn't always been successful. There's been some successful cases. There's been some successful places with successful players coming from the Dutch league, the Dutch players to Manchester United, and there's so many successful Dutch players. I mean, Virgil van Dijk, unbelievable. De Jong, insane. There is some brilliant Dutch players. Of course there is. But Erik ten Hag has this tunnel vision for Ajax and Ajax in the Dutch league to the point where it's like we need to move away from it. And this is why it's so important that Sir Jim, Dave Brailsworth and the whole team at Ineos get the sporting director role dead on. I mean, this guy is 21 years old, and if you've watched some of his goals, they're actually very good this season. But I was watching him and I was thinking, if that's in the Premier League, you're not having that amount of time. You're getting a shoulder in the back a lot quicker than what was happening there. And it doesn't mean, they can't be successful. I mean, look at Luis Suarez, insane. But 21, we've got Højlund who's 20. Do you go down the route of having two very young strikers that have come from leagues where they're going to have to adapt to the Premier League? And it's a big kind of step up. Is that the way we should be going? For me personally, no. I think we should have Højlund, who, for me, thankfully, looks like he's going to be really successful. He's a project. He's got all the attributes. I genuinely think he could be a monster centre-forward with the right coaching around him and the right project around him. I think he's going to be great. But I think to benefit Højlund, we need someone with a bit of experience, mid-20s, first-team player, potentially even Premier League proven, or proven in the top leagues in Europe at a top level, have been doing it consistently. That's where I think Manchester United need to go in the summer. I've said it before, I've said it again. For me, Manchester United should be getting Ivan Toney. They just should be. We won't, because Ivan Toney wants to play for a top club that's in Champions League, and I really highly doubt we're going to be in Champions League. And if Arsenal go for him, of course he's going to go for Arsenal over us, because they're more developed in their project. They have more chance of winning the Prem, unfortunately, than us, quicker. But if Man United really want to make a boss move, Ivan Toney and Højlund as a striker partnership next year would be absolutely insane. Genuinely, and that's the type of player we should be going for. But I don't think we will. Even people won't like this one. I think Dominic Solanke's great for Bournemouth. I really do. Maybe he's a bit too much of a jump to go to Manchester United, and obviously I know he is ex-Liverpool, but I think he's established himself. This is why I'm so hopeful for Højlund as well. You look at Solanke when he first broke onto the scene for Liverpool, when he was first playing in the Premier League. He looked not great. He was barely scoring any goals, and he just didn't look like he'd kind of developed enough. He's now 25, 26, I think, Solanke, and he's obviously learnt his trade. He's more experienced, and he's absolutely bossing it. He looks great. He can head it. He can shoot. He's clinical with his shooting. He's great at running the channels. His hold-up play is good. He's a bully in the box. He's great. So imagine how much Højlund's going to develop in that time as well. Like, it's going to be ridiculous, and that's why I'm so happy. Like, Højlund at 20 years old, he's going to develop so well. But Dominic Solanke's another one where I think he's got a lot of potential, and if he was playing in a team that was creating for him, he'd be a good move. He knows the Premier League. Ivan Toney, though, would absolutely be my first pick for a striker in the summer. Absolutely. Like, set pieces, penalties, hungry, got a bit of an attitude about him, a bit of an arrogance that I like, to be honest with you. Wants to win, has been a captain at Brentford. I just would think that would be an unbelievable appointment if we managed to get him in. But I don't think Man United will do it. Like, I don't. I think I'm in cuckoo land thinking that's going to happen. But that's what the type of players we should be going for, in my opinion. But Brian Brobbey, I'm not going to lie, I've not watched loads of him. He does look decent. But for me, I would be staying clear of Erik ten Hag's talent ID over in the Netherlands right now. Just my personal preference. And I was speaking to Ricky about this as well, and he was saying, you know, people look down so much on bringing in players from the Championship, but realistically, like, you know, the Dutch League and the Championship, I think is the Championship better quality than Dutch League? Like, realistically? Like, people, if we went and bought someone from the Championship, we'd be like, oh my gosh. Like, you know, when we went and bought Dan James in, people were like, well, that's a risk. The Eredivisie isn't really much different. If anything, the Championship's probably a higher standard. So, you know, you kind of need to look at it a little bit like that. Paul Lucas says, I like Ferguson. I would absolutely love Ferguson, but I think he's going to be way too expensive right now, currently. Way too expensive. But we'll have to wait and see. I think he's a great prospect for sure. Any top striker will cost 100 million these days. We aren't getting a top striker. Interesting stuff, interesting stuff. Let me have a look down. Oh yeah, the forward situation. People saying that's outrageous that I'm comparing the Championship to the Eredivisie. Realistically, like, apart from like the top teams like PSV, Ajax in the Dutch league, it's not really, like, the Championship is a very established league without Europe. It's a good league. It is. But anyway, I wanted to talk about the Højlund situation for a second. Someone said Sesko. I would love Paulina. Paulina would be great. Me and Jordan were speaking about this the other day. Paulina would be absolutely great. I think he's top. I think he's absolutely top. But I wanted to speak about the forward situation, the conversation that I was having on the train. So, this is something that is on Erik ten Hag and needs to be worked on, and it needs to be sorted out very, very quickly. We have a situation, and I've spoke about this a little bit on the fan forums, but it's becoming more and more clear to me. We would not score the amount of goals that we need to score as Manchester United if we continue to play with converted wingers and a target man. Manchester United, there's two options you can pick out. You can have inside forwards, like a Rashford and a Garnacho, or a Rashford and Antony. Wingers that look towards goal, look to cut in and shoot. That's their bread and butter. You can play like that. Like, it's worked wonders for a lot of teams. But if you're going to play like that, you need a facilitating number 9. This is why, back in the NHS days, Rashford, Martial and Greenwood worked so well together. Greenwood was a cutting and shoot, Rashford was a cutting and shoot, and Martial was a great facilitating number 9. Link-up play, he was on form at that time. This is why, and I'm not comparing Manchester United to this because this is one of the best front lines I've ever seen in Premier League. This is why Firmino, Salah and Mane was insane. Salah and Mane, they did both create, to be fair, but they were mainly goal scorers. They were the goal scorers for Liverpool. Firmino was one of the best at it, facilitating number 9. Was great at facilitating them players. So, United can be successful playing the likes of Rashford and Garnacho, Rashford and Antony. Well, the Antony needs to massively improve on the wings that is inside forwards if they had a facilitating number 9 that's going to kind of do the link-up play, sacrifice himself, maybe not scoring the most amount of goals, but still going to get opportunity, but that's their role as a number 9. What Man United have now is they have a target man in Højlund and they have players that are playing as inside forwards. They're all looking to shoot. Højlund's getting no service. If you have a target man, you need wingers that are going to cross the ball. I sound like Ricky. Ricky's going to be loving this. I sound like Ricky, but if you have Højlund, if you have an Ivan Toney, if you have someone in there that is a target man, you need wingers and you need fullbacks that are going to be overlapping, crossing the ball into the box and getting the ball to Højlund. And I'm not comparing Højlund to Van Nistelrooy because Van Nistelrooy was absolutely insane and Højlund obviously has a lot to live up to. But when did Van Nistelrooy ever really score like goals from outside the box? It was quite rare. He was in the box, poacher, he knew where the back of the net is and he relied on service. Højlund needs service. Sir Alex Ferguson, it's prominent. Everybody knows this line. Everybody's seen it everywhere. You've seen it. He said to Rooney, he said to players on the pitch, and these are players that have been incredible for Man United. He says, you find Van Persie, and if you don't, you won't play. And of course, Van Persie came in with a lot more stature and a lot more history and was a lot more well-developed than Højlund. And Højlund obviously doesn't really have that demand yet. But at the end of the day, we are playing with a target man who needs service. And Sir Alex Ferguson said, you don't find him, you don't play. And this needs to be drilled into Manchester United's players. I'm not saying that every single time, Rashford or Garnacho or Antony have the ball in a dangerous area, they have to be looking for Højlund, but I'm saying the majority of the time they should be looking up to find players in the box, to find Højlund in the box. He's the striker. We are playing with a target man. There's going to be occasions where Rashford and Garnacho have the opportunity to shoot. It's a better opportunity than passing it, and they absolutely should do that. But if we're playing with a target man, we need wingers and we need fullbacks that are going to cross. And this means Dalot has to cross more, and I like Dalot. For me, he's my starting right back, and it means Luke Shaw has to cross it more. We have to overlap more, and we have to be less... Because at the moment, we're playing so narrow. We're playing with inverted fullbacks, we're playing, with inverted wingers, and we need to get the width going. We need to be creating crosses, we need to be creating chances, and the fullbacks need to do more, but the wingers massively need to do more. And, if you want to play in a situation where Rashford and Garnacho or Rashford and Antony are your main goal scorers, then you need to change your number 9, realistically. And I don't want to do that. Højlund's my number 9. I want him to play. I want to play with a target man, and I want to be playing with an out-and-out striker. But the wingers, I'm not saying every single ball they get, they have to pass it. But most of the time, they need to be looking up, and we need to have patterns of play, overlapping fullbacks, and that's the way we need to work it. And Bruno and Mount, or Bruno and Kobe Mainoo, or whoever the midfield is, need to be kind of sitting along the edge of the box, doing little passes, tricky passes, in and out, but in between the wingers and the fullbacks, creating chances from the width and making runs into the box to kind of take runners away from Højlund and work like that. That's what needs to be happening, in my opinion. But Gabriel Akari says the crossing ability ain't good enough. Garnacho is good with both feet. To be fair with Garnacho, on the right, he's passing it so much more. And even on the left, he passed it more than what Rashford did. Rashford started to begin to do it. But Garnacho is obviously, I think he's predominantly right-footed, but he's good on both. And the way he's been getting to the byline and crossing it in, and this is what the most frustrating thing is about Antony, is when you have Antony on the right wing, and I don't get how Erik ten Hag doesn't see it, and I'd love to have a conversation with him about this, because I'm like, what are you actually trying to achieve with this? When he gets the ball, he's never taking it wide, he's never taken it to the byline. So what he's actually doing is, one, closing down space, because say here's the byline, this is Antony, he gets the ball, he's never going to take it out there, use his fullback and kind of try and drive into the box or cross it into the box. It's never going to happen. He quickly closes down the space so it's more compact, easier to defend against, and moves around and cuts inside. And it wastes so many opportunities. I saw him doing it the other day, and I thought, God, if that was Garnacho, he'd actually just, knock it, run to the byline and get it in. Football's a very simple game. If you're going to be a left footer on the right wing, in my opinion, you have to be absolutely elite. You have to be Salah levels, you have to be Robin levels, you have to be Mahrez levels. You've got to be top draw. Antony isn't. Whether he can be that, I don't think so, but hopefully you'd think he can progress. But he absolutely needs to be using both feet more and using the space and using the fullback more, personally for me. And Ape Elaine says, Beth, do you think it's time to move Rashford out of United? No, not yet, not for me. Obviously, he needs to improve, he needs to be more consistent, but I'd give him next season to really kind of evaluate on Marcus Rashford, to be honest with you. But it's going to be interesting. And do you know what is going to be interesting as well? When Omar Berrada comes in and the new appointments come in and they do a complete audit and a complete kind of evaluation of Manchester United, I think that will include staff, it'll include players, they'll look at Ten Hag. I really do wonder what the opinions of these best-in-class experts that are kind of coming in to influence Manchester United and how that will kind of affect the dynamic with Ten Hag and how it will affect potentially, the squad as a whole, because our squad is... We've got some players in there that, for me, I think are at a good level and in a better team would be good enough to play for Man United. But there's so much in there that's nowhere near good enough, and it needs just a complete clear out. But football's a very simple game. Sometimes we try and overcomplicate it, but the end of the day is Man United needs to be getting more crosses into the box, and they need to be facilitating the striker a lot more. And there needs to be more discipline from the midfield. Even Bruno, I'm Bruno's biggest fan. He needs to be more disciplined in his positioning, in and out of possession, going forward and going backwards. You know, don't be taking up other people's space. Be holding your position. Be holding the team shape. Like, there's a lot. Ten Hag, for me, I think, needs to be a lot more disciplined and also maybe a lot less stubborn on the way he envisioned Manchester United working, because some things just aren't working, and we need to take it back to basics. But anyway, Seba says, would cash in on Rashford. A lot of people would. A lot of people would cash in on Rashford. I think if an absolutely unbelievable offer came in this summer, you'd have to look at it. But for me, I still want to just give him one more season to work it out. Is he going to be consistent enough to carry us forward, or are we just going to keep having these spells of inconsistency? And if there's another spell of inconsistency next year, then it would be time for move on. And don't be afraid to do that, of course. But for me, I would still give him one more chance personally. And maybe that is sentiments, but I'm just going to be honest with you guys. But look, everyone, that is the show this morning. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. It was good to kind of just get a lot off our chest, be positive about the way that the direction Man United's moving in under Ineos and Sir Jim, which I think Omar Berrada is a positive appointment. I don't want to do it, but I'm going to watch through again the City All or Nothing documentary, because I know he appears in that quite a bit. Going to kind of do a little bit more research, but that's a positive appointment for me. And then all the other stuff, like this January transfer window, I generally don't think we'll get anybody. Martial's staying. His agent said that himself. I don't think we'll get anybody in. I'd be shocked. Maybe it'll be a last minute sort of loan, but if we don't, we don't. I'm not gonna cry about it. I'm really not. Because I want to focus on having the best summer possible. And I want you guys, your job for today, we will be actually speaking to Romano later on. We've got obviously the Ben Foster coming out with Mark, and it'll be interesting to hear what they have to say a little bit later. But one thing I would ask you guys to do is, United are going to go for a striker in the summer to help Højlund out. Who would you pick? Who would be your pick? I really would be interested to know, because everyone's got such a different opinion on this. But thank you, everyone, for a brilliant show this morning. It set my week up right. Let's inject some positivity into this week. We've got FA Cup coming up this weekend. Going to be really interesting to kind of see how we go. It's Newport County this weekend, isn't it? We should be winning that game. Is Bayern Day finally going to get a chance? I mean, let's not talk about Anana's Cameroon performance. It just gets from bad to worse, doesn't it? Got a lot of stuff coming up this week, a lot of exciting content as well. Have a lovely week, everyone. Do something positive today. Do something that's going to make you feel good. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the content that happens today, and enjoy the rest of your week. Have a good one, everyone.